we'll be talking about psychometrics. I hope you like it. So basically, I'll be going through a lot of stuff regarding to psychometrics. We're talking about what it is, who practices it, what we look for in a good measures. I'll give you a couple good examples of good measures that are out there. And for those of you who want to become psychometricians, I have something for you in here. So just stick around and let's begin. So what is psychometrics? So basically, this is a science of measuring mental capacities. You're looking at a field of study concerned with the theory and technique that is, you know, that generally it's a specialized field in psychology and education devoted to three factors. We're looking at testing, measurement, and assessment of activities. So it's a marriage between the theory and technique of measurement. So who practices psychometrics? They usually call psychometricians. So these are scientists who study measurement, specifically the measurement of people's knowledge, skills, and abilities. We're talking about KSAs. So most psychometricians perform their work by developing the tests or tools and examine people's innate KSAs. Now, I would like to dig more into these cases just to give an example of what they are. So, a couple of examples over here. KSAs are knowledge, skills, and abilities. So, an example would be like a knowledge of office procedures, a knowledge of record administration, a knowledge of inventory control. You know what to do. Skills is one of those attained over time. You attain a particular skills. For some people, it might be public speaking, analyzing data, time management, stuff like that. And when it comes to abilities, it's just like one's capability to work like under pressure, throw them across deadlines, they'll get stuff done. They have that capability. One's capability to work under stress, analyze and prepare documents on time. Probably some people are more accurate than others, so accuracy is also a capability or an ability. So where to use this? We've seen we're talking about psychometrics. So employee selection. Some companies have made a lot of money in employee selection tools. We're talking about companies like Hogan. What else? Let's see. College admissions. You have to do some SATs to, you know, one of those tests. Some certifications have an element of psychometrics, like when you're taking the PMP exam and all that stuff. So types of psychometrics tests, we're talking the various ones. I remember in the military we had the ASVAB, but I mean the basic principles underlining these tests. We're talking about numeric reasonings. 1 + 1 is 2. It might be arithmetic or something like that. Verbal reasoning, diagrammatic reasoning. So we're talking about finding connections between particular items on a tests. Logical reasoning, logic is a given. Inductive reasoning. Now, with induction, you begin with observation, then you get that. It begins with an observation, then you reason your way out of what you just observed. Error checking. For those of you who have taken Six Sigma, and some statisticians, they should be super proficient in error checking. Now, some of the most commonly used tests are these ones here that we have compiled. We have the MMPI, one of my favorite. Now this one is a Minnesota multi-phasic personality inventory. They use it to assess personality traits, psychopathology. So it's intended to test people who are suspected of having mental health issues, clinical issues, that MMPI 3. Now with the WISE, this is an IQ test. In full, they call it the Walsha Adult Intelligence Scale Test. It's an IQ test. It measures intelligence and cognitive capabilities of adults and adolescents. The Rorschach is one of those ink bots. Probably you've seen it in movies. They show you an ink bot and they ask you, what do you see? A butterfly or something, whatever you see. And the psychologist just notes down based on what you see. With the DISC assessment, if I remember correctly, this was created by William Marston. So it examines how one individual ranks in four areas of behavior. We're talking about dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness. So if you're detail oriented, you love to meet the deadlines and all that, conservative in your outlook, but you're just airtight in everything you do, you might fall into conscientiousness. Most leaders have a higher score on the dominance rate when it comes to DISC assessments. So let's say, and what else? The Hogan. With the Hogan, now this one is used to measure normal personalities to predict job performance. So most employees love this, in employee selection, leadership development, succession planning, talent management, you name it, it measures it. So that's why people love the Hogan. Now, so all these tests that I've just shown you have 5 factors that are just innate into that makes them like super good tests. So in psychometrics, you have to, in order to evaluate what's a good measure in psychometric, you have to look at these 5 factors, and now it's standardization, reliability, validity, population norms, and interpretation of individual and group scores. You might look at this in terms of scaling or something. Now let's go through this one by one. We'll begin with standardization. Now, with standardization, we're looking at is this test given the same way every time? Who administers these instruments? Are there specific instructions on how to give this test? And what's the order of items, timing, stuff like just the other side of administering a test. Now the scoring, we're looking at how is the test scored? Who scores the instrument? Are you scoring it like each question is either correct or incorrect, or are there partial points? And you're looking at variations between these. So this is what makes up standardization of a test. Reliability. Now this is just like the word itself, We're looking at the consistency of the test. Now this can be broken down into 3 forms of reliability. Inter-rate and inter-observer. Now these are people who are administering the tests. Are they reliable in this particular rate? You're looking at reliability between those. Internal reliability and external reliability. Now with the inter-rater and observer, do you have multiple observers, and do they score the item the same way? Now here you're looking at stuff like let's go back to there's some tests that pointed out, like the Rorschach. Okay, you might see a butterfly, someone might score it a different way when you see a butterfly, and another psychologist might term it a different way. So what makes this an interesting test is that there's that subjectivity with the observers and raters. So with internal reliability, does the item measure that central thing? Does it measure the central phenomenon? And here, one of the things that we look for the internal reliability is a Cronbach's alpha. Now the Cronbach's alpha usually measures from 0.00 to 1. So the higher the value of the Cronbach alpha means that the internal reliability is strong. With external reliability, we're looking at consistency of the scale and the test scores. Is that test-to-test reliability? If I test you today and I test you like 3 months after today, will I get something that's a little bit similar? Is there alternate forms reliability, different versions of the test? This alternate forms reliability is that, there's some tests that test for the same thing, but they're easier, and they're harder tests for the same thing. So you're looking at that reliability. They should all have the same, They should correlate the scores from 2 different versions of a test. You test this test, you're within a particular range, and take the other test as long as test the same thing. So now let's move to this one here. I kind of like the validity. So here you're looking at the degree to which a test actually measures what it claims to measure. Let's begin with face validity. Here is the degree to which a procedure or an assessment appears to be effective in terms of what it states. So is it valid on that front? So with the content validity, it's a degree to which the instrument is relevant to or represents the targeted construct it claims to measure. I'll give you an example here just to drive the point home. Let's say a depression scale may lack content validity if it only assesses affective depression, the dimension of depression, but fails to take into account other dimensions like behavioral, the behavior side. So content is just, is it valid across the across the across the room? Some scales just are picky, but we need a scale that's valid across everything. Criterion related validity. Now here we're looking at the extent to which the operation or the workings of a construct relates to or predicts the theoretical representation of a construct. So here we have some subsections of divergent validity, predictive validity. So we're looking at if the test correlates with a criteria. Now let's move forward with construct validity. Now this concerns the extent to which your test or measure accurately assesses what it's supposed to. Does the test measure what it should? So here we're looking at discriminant validities and convergent and divergent validity. These particular forms. So with convergent, does it correlate with a selected test? Does it with divergent, does it it doesn't correlate with others? So one of those things. So it has to be valid across the board. Now the last scale here is the interpretation of individual group scores. So we're looking at in terms of scaling to a particular standard. Now to interpret a score from a person to person or from a person to a group, one must know what the scores are typical for a population. Now usual here we're looking at a target population should be required, a large sample is preferred, and this is a summation of all that we've looked for. It requires standardization that we have looked for. Now with standardization, if you remember, we've talked about administrative and scoring. It also requires a great deal of reliability and also validity. So this is the sum, and it caps off on this funnel here. So it contains all standardization, reliability, validity, population norms. So it's up there. Once you reach up there, that caps off on what a good measure should look like. Now let's move forward with what do psychometricians do? So basically think about it this way. If you already have a good measure, okay, what do you do as a psychometrician? Some of them get involved in gathering data, designing tests, so assessing diagnostics. With the assessment of diagnostics, some psychometricians are responsible for ensuring that the tests designed provide accurate and reliable results. So that's that form of assessment. Administering exams, we've talked about this, and let's see, also there's a reporting of findings and managing test systems. So with the management of test systems, some psychometricians manage overall testing systems to ensure proper administration and scoring. Now most often psychometricians work in school districts, educational institutions and stuff like that. Now moving forward, where does a psychometrician work? So if you're interested in becoming one, this is the information for you. So mainly psychometricians work in a variety of industries, different types of companies, but they're mainly in two areas, two environments. Let's talk mainly research institutes, assessment centers, and also there are many other companies out there that are hiring psychometricians. We're talking about Boston Consulting, Deloitte, and there's a lot of money in being a psychometrician. A psychometrician. So, for example, Deloitte conducts initial screenings, interviews, psychometric testings, and all that stuff. So, if you're interested in becoming one, there are jobs out there for you. Now, most of you may have a question: how do I become one anyway? So, it's just a 5-step, but it might take a couple of years. But so you have to earn a bachelor's degree, preferably something in psychology, statistics, mathematics, or a related field. Again, an internship. So while working through a bachelor's degree, you just consider completing an internship that will help you find a little bit of experiences. Now, if you're planning on working with these big companies, most of them prefer psychometricians with a master's degree. So you can look into Masters of Science in Psychometrics, Master of Science in Psychology, anything that focuses on psychometrics will do. Also consider doctoral degree. Some psychometricians earn that for leadership and management roles. As you climb up the ladder, doctoral degree might help. And once you're done with that, hey, move forward with your application. You'll be good to go. So some of the common skills, we're looking at mathematics. That may help you as a psychometricians. Mathematics, you just understand. Now here we're looking at spatial statistics. It's vital to being a psychometrician. Attention to details, noticing this small stuff, how they impact the overall quality of the test. This is what will make you a better psychometrician than other people. Collaboration, of course, and group work, and probably communication. Many psychometricians have to share their reports, findings, to all internal and external stakeholders. So if you have those excellent written and verbal communication, that will help a big deal. So that was it. I kind of rushed through this, but I hope you gained some vital information. Please let us know what we can do better next time or something like that. If you have a topic that you a question in IO psychology, industrial organization psychology, or anything like that, leave it in the comments. And until next time, thank you.